You gave up a TV job to start a podcast in your basement. If that doesn't scream midlife crisis, I don't know what does.
It was Championship Sunday here in Indianapolis. What's the mindset then coming in as a defending champion?
I want to win. No, I want to win.
The young lady over my shoulder, Caitlin Clark.
Not the best looking guy. And I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say, Matt Randazzo was really good looking.
What has this last month, 2 months, 3 months been like for you? It's an important fan base for the Fighting Illini, is it not?
It is.
He turned 69 years young last week. He looked good, Coach.
Oh, try it. Thank you.
Welcome to Off the Air on a Wednesday here in the Quad Cities. Wednesday, March 26th. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If you're watching us live on YouTube, we appreciate that. The subscribers, if you will, have been really, really well. We're up well over 800. Now we're focused towards 900 and get to that 1,000 mark. So if you haven't subscribed, please do so. If you have, tell a friend or two or 10 or 20 about this little show we're doing here in the Quad Cities, Off the Air with Matt Randazzo, every single weekday at 10 a.m. We're also live on X. X has been very, very good to us. We're also looking into eventually simulcasting on Facebook as well. Hopefully by next week we're doing that as well. And then we're also, if you don't want to look at me, and I understand that, I don't want to look at me either, although some people think I look like someone. We're going to get to that in a second. But if you don't want to look at us, you can check us out on all the podcasting platforms. Wherever you get your podcasts, check us out there. Those downloads are up as well, so we appreciate everyone for supporting the show. Coming up on today's show, really excited because it's been a busy week in Iowa City. Ben McCollum was officially, I should say, announced as the Iowa head basketball coach yesterday. I think he hit a home run. And speaking of home runs, the Athletics' Scott Dochterman, one of the best in the business, will join me in a matter of moments to talk about first impressions, a roster, a staff, and a whole lot more. We'll get to Scott Dochterman here in just a few moments. Also, a little later in hour number one, Moline's Trey Taylor joins us. Trey was the MVP of the Iowa-Illinois Senior All-Star Game on Monday. He left Moline as the winningest player in program history. We'll talk to him about putting on the jersey for one last time on Monday, and of course his future in college basketball, his head coach, Sean Taylor, and a lot more. That's a lot of fun. We'll get to Trey Taylor later in hour number one. Also, in hour number two, we're going to be joined by the tournament director at the John Deere Classic, Andrew Layman. We may talk a little music. That's a hint. A little music coming up with that one in just a little bit. Also, Andrew is a huge Hawkeye fan, and he's excited about Iowa basketball, so we'll talk to Andrew about that as well. Also, T-Roy from the old Don't Hassle Us, We're Local days will be here in hour number two as well with his .08 mock draft. We got numbers 7 through 11, I think, today. So we got a jam-packed show to get to. If you missed yesterday's show, Keith Murphy, one of the legends in the sportscasting industry, especially in the state of Iowa, joined me yesterday. You want to check that out. Also, Mike Kegley from the Illini Guys joined us yesterday as well, so check out yesterday's show as well. A few headlines before we get to our first guest. We mentioned it. Ben McCollum is officially the head coach at the University of Iowa. I think he hit a home run. We'll figure all that out, talk a lot about that with Scott Dochterman in a matter of moments. Also, there's a lot of rumors as well, a lot of sources that say Fran McCaffery will be Penn's new head coach in a very short amount of time. So we'll talk with Doc about that as well. Some portal news. Our Moline boys wondering where they're going. Owen Freeman was at Creighton yesterday. That's one of many stops I feel like he's going to make before he makes a decision on his next home. And also Brock Harding was at TCU on Monday. I can tell you he's at TCU still today. So TCU, Washington, and Louisville all in the mix for Brock Harding as well. So we'll keep you updated. And as we mentioned, both those young gentlemen have offered to be on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo once they make their decision on a future home. But we're going to start where we have started a lot of this week, and it's in Iowa City, talking about the new head basketball coach at the University of Iowa. And we're joined now by the man himself, the Athletics' Scott Dochterman. Doc, thank you so much for doing this. I know you've been busy, but it's been a fun busy, hasn't it?
Well, it gets fun when it's finalized. The actual making of the sausage when it comes to coaching searches is as exhausting as anything. And as you know, Matt, I'm kind of wearing a lot of different hats now. I'm more of a national writer, but when you do get a high profile coaching search, then it's kind of like, okay, drift over there for a little bit. And what we've got going on in Iowa City is relevant enough nationally that it made a lot of sense for me to kind of get my claws back into it. So this is the third, well, actually fourth, I guess, coaching search I've written about. I was at the Muscatine Journal back in 1999 when Steve Alford was hired.
Wow.
So I was at that press conference, and then I was at the Gazette, boots on the ground, covering it away when Alford left for Licklider.
Sure.
The Fran era, I was on the tarmac when he got flown in, and then with this one, found out within a few minutes of him actually signing the paperwork that it was all good to go. So, yeah, crazy days in Iowa City, but I think, as you kind of said at the top, home run, absolutely a home run. What happened in Iowa City?
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But since you brought up all four of those, how has it changed, Doc? How has covering these things from, a young pup back in Muscatine to doing it now? And I know social media probably has a lot to do with it, but how has the coverage of this thing changed in all four of those, or evolved maybe?
Yeah, I mean, going way back to 1999, it was a newspaper world, and there wasn't, I think right now we have a, real confluence of media. I mean, I'm on your podcast, and I've been on TV this week. I've been on radio this week. I've had my own podcast. I've written for online, and back then it was like, if you're a newspaper writer, you're just a newspaper writer, and just TV. But going back then, every sign pointed towards that. That was pretty much a layup that we knew Steve Alford was going to replace Tom Davis, and he was a lame duck that year. So that was an awkward situation, but you didn't have the minute-by-minute blow. I would say with Todd Licklider, I went to the Final Four after Steve Alford left, and I had some really interesting experiences there because nobody had talked to Steve after he resigned to go to New Mexico. And I ran into him at an All-Star game because Adam Haluska was playing. And I went up to him, he was sitting in the stands, and I said, "Hey, Steve, just like to talk to you for a few minutes." And he's like, "I have no interest in talking to you. The way I was treated, I have no interest." Oh. I'm like, okay, he gave me the Heisman. So I went and I talked to Lute Olson a little bit later, and he's like, "I hope they get it right this time." Talking about he didn't feel that Iowa got it right with Alford. And the next day, I was at the hotel where the NABC meetings were held, right at the Final Four in Atlanta. And I go up to, I see him again, and I go to approach him. Well, as soon as I was getting ready to talk to him, there were a bunch of Indiana fans who came up, and they're like, "Steve Alford, great." And so they handed me the camera, and they're like, "Can you take a picture of me with Steve Alford?" And I'm like, "Sure, yeah." And I'm like humbling myself here. Maybe this will give me an in, right? Yeah. And I took a picture, and he's smiling away, and then kind of a sarcastic smile. And then I go, "Hey, I just wanted to talk to you for a few minutes." He's like, "I have no interest in talking to you or your organization. The way you guys treated me." And I said, "Steve, nobody's gotten your point of view here. Please tell me. That way we could write this, and maybe people will get a better understanding." He goes, "I have no interest." And that was it. And wow. I was like, wow, this is pretty fierce. But that was before Twitter. So it was a little bit different there. There was a TV station in Cedar Rapids that reported live on a Friday night before the Final Four that Rick Majerus had accepted the Iowa job.
I remember that.
So I had Rick Majerus's number, and he's passed by now, but I called him, and he's like, no, there's no truth to that. And then that station led its 10 o'clock A block, Rick Majerus coming to Iowa City. And so the people at the Gazette were like, "Hey, try to get a hold of him again." And by this time I pissed him off. And he's like, he goes, "Dude, what part of no don't you understand?" So I refuted that, but it made for great copy, as they say. And then Todd ultimately was hired. They decided to leak it to CBS right before the start of the national championship game that night, that Monday night. And this was a classic mistake by Gary Barta. He made two memos of understanding, one for Kevin Stallings, who was the coach at Vanderbilt at the time, for $1.4 million per year. and he made one for Todd Licklider at $1.2 million per year. And when we FOIA'd all those documents, that was part of it. And so that became kind of an embarrassing situation. And then 3 years later, that's when Twitter was starting to really fly by. It got pretty crazy with the Fran one. Iowa had offered the job to one other person, Brian Gregory, who was at Dayton, but Dayton was playing in the NIT Final Four in New York City. And he's like, I want to coach that. And then I want to interview. And they're like, no, you got to make the choice. And said, I'm going to stick with my team. And then they went with Fran right after that. So crazy stuff. And then this one was out of this world because of all the reporting that sometimes goes on.
Yeah. It goes back to being correct. And I loved what the Drake athletic director said. It goes back to being correct, not first. And a lot happened throughout. I thought you did a great job. I thought for the most part, the media did a great job of figuring out what was going on. And it was a quick turn. And we knew on Monday that Ben was the guy in the morning. And then he was introduced, obviously, on Tuesday. And Monday, you wanted to give the ladies their full attention with them playing. We mentioned it off the top, Doc. He hit a home run yesterday, didn't he? When he comes to hitting all the Iowa notes and the players, I love the fact that he didn't, obviously Chris Street was mentioned, but then Montier Glasper, and he showed his knowledge. What did you take of yesterday? And I felt like he nailed it on his first impression.
No question, because you sometimes, even with Iowa natives, you're not sure if they grew up an Iowa fan. I mean, he was in Northwest Iowa, Storm Lake. That could be Iowa State territory. That could be Nebraska. That could be nobody. You could just say, well, there's no school within 100 miles of me. I don't really care. Yeah. And for him to say, not only did he grow up an Iowa fan, but, had pictures of him with Tom Davis at camps, to bring up these names, like, as you said, Montier Glasper, Val Barnes, his interaction with Kenyon Murray after the press conference was great. He lived the history that a lot of people of that age group, my age group, I grew up in Burlington, where we remember those players, and they were kind of larger than life.
Me too.
They were larger than life, and then to talk about like winning the Hawkeye Hustler Award at his camp, and Bruce Pearl is the one saying that he reminds him of himself and his attitude and stuff. I mean, this is more than a home run. This is like a grand slam. I mean, because you already knew you were getting a great coach that has the pedigree, that has the championships, that has, the success at multiple levels, and he's Midwestern. So you knew that he's got kind of the bona fides of what you're looking for, and, he had a market for him. So you expect that. But then to know that the depth of interest in Iowa was genuine. It's not just reciting some names. It's not going, we're going to play like Roy Marble did, or Chris Street is one that it's kind of easy because you have to say his name in some respects, but you could tell he felt it. It was genuine. And I think that I described it as, a juicy slab of meat, to a starving fan base, because it hasn't had that connection. Iowa has tremendous history, but it also has kind of weak tradition, I would say, that over the last 25 years, that's all faded. But he could build that bridge back to that history, but more importantly, build the next road to the future. And I think that is something that he spelled out in multiple ways, style of play, getting the interest going in Iowa City. And so, I think it was a grand slam press conference.
Doc, I remember my first one was Licklider. And I remember that press conference, and I wasn't overly, as a guy who grew up an Iowa fan, wasn't overly excited when I left Todd Licklider's press conference. He was not Steve Alford. I think that was the headline of that one. He's not Steve Alford, so we're good. Fran did a good job, and I think he talked about the past, but he was still a Philly guy. And I know several people have said to me during the process, why does it have to be an Iowa guy? Why does it? And almost like annoyed by that fact. It doesn't have to be an Iowa guy. If Brad Stevens wanted to be the head coach at Iowa, I'm sure that would have been okay. But boy, it helps a ton that it is an Iowa guy in this state, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Because when you look at the connection was severed. That's why people weren't going. I mean, you look at what Fran was able to do on the floor for all those years. Yes, he didn't reach a level that fans wanted him to. He should have gotten to at the Sweet 16, but he had a pretty high floor. I mean, he only had 2 losing seasons in the Big Ten and, 1 losing season overall since the 2012. So, early over his last several years. So he probably on the floor earned the mulligan, if you want to call it that, that if the stands were full, if it was a decent crowd every night, but people were detached, they were disinterested, there was apathy. And so when you look back at how this descent has happened, it's because there's been a detachment. Steve Alford, Indiana guy, pretty arrogant, didn't come across well. The Pierre Pierce incident was a mortal wound to the Iowa fan base because that was unforgivable. And then what they did subsequently was even worse. And then he ultimately reoffended and ended up in prison. And that just destroyed a segment of the fan base that's still kind of turned off by it. Todd Licklider, yes, as you said perfectly, it was the anti-Alford. You thought, oh, shucks, he's from Indiana. He knows basketball. He's going to fit in well. People like that about him. Well, he was introverted. And he probably still is.
Yeah.
and that's not good for a basketball coach. You need somebody, maybe not PJ Fleck football, but you need somebody who can kind of rah-rah the fan base a little bit. And it didn't work with recruiting. And then, Fran did a good job for a lot of the years. But when things started to slip away, what you needed was somebody who was humble enough to, all right, we got to get the fans back. And I'm going to do something personally with this. I'm going to go out and externally go to different groups around town. I mean, the way Jan Jensen and Lisa Bluter has done for a quarter century. And Fran just wanted to be about coaching. And ultimately, if you make it just only about what's going on the floor, that'll come back to you if you're not producing at a high enough level. Because, I mean, when you're talking about, 5,176 average fans per game, a third of the arena full, when juxtaposed with women being sold out for the entire season, wrestling being sold out for the entire season, you just have all of that. They had to make that change. And so I thought, if nothing else, Iowa wasn't mandatory, but Midwestern was. Because Tom Davis is from Wisconsin. If they got Nico Medved, if he would have been, he probably would have been my third choice after Darren DeVries and Ben McCollum. I put McCollum first and DeVries second. If Medved was number 3, well, he's from Minnesota. He knows the layout. He coached at Drake. I think that would have worked. But you just didn't want to go out and get somebody who's from Philly again, or California, or Florida. You've got to understand what this is all about. And that was the area that I was most as impressed with as anything, because we know how he can coach. Yeah. But it's that, and it's not that, he takes that responsibility. It's like, it's Iowa. We call it God's country. You got to go out and talk to people at the grocery store. They say hi, you say hi back. But it's also, it's not just on them. It's on everybody to collectively build that up. And because it can't just be unilateral. He's going to bring the fans back. The fans have to bring themselves back, but you've got to get them in that position. And I think he's done a really nice job of already building that.
Scott Dochterman from The Athletic joining us right now. Boy, the style of play question was going to come up, and it did. And I thought he just, again, drilled it, because there was that, it's a slow pace, and then the Licklider comparisons started coming in, which were nonsense. We talked to Keith Murphy yesterday, and you go back to Northwest Missouri State, and they scored in the 80s. They scored points. And he answered it by saying he'd prefer to play a faster pace, but he's going to do what he's got with his players. Kind of talk about that, because Iowa fans do wonder what this now looks like. And I think I love his X's and O's. He's a great coach, but I think it's going to depend on what the pieces are. And that's exciting for Iowa fans, because you got a guy that's ready to win with whatever players he gets, instead of needing those players in order to win. Your thoughts on style of play that we'll see with Ben McCollum?
Perfect answer, because yes, I think that was what people were a little bit nervous about. And they thought of Licklider, and I think that's lazy. It's understandable, but it's lazy, because Todd, okay, he played that style, but that style works. It's just you've got to have the players to do it, and he couldn't get the players because he couldn't relate to them. And that was the main reason why. And then you score more points if you have better players, and you're not going to still score in the 50s. In his case, they played a slower tempo this year because when you look, if you watch the two games over the weekend for Drake, when they played Missouri and Texas Tech, athlete-wise, they were out of this. It was just a complete mismatch athletically. However, when I compared it to like watching Hickory play South Bend Central, at the end of Hoosiers. However, the efficiency with how they played, the intensity on defense, the efficiency on offense, the movement without the ball, they're more pass-centered than they are dribble-centered. You could see the flow, the beauty of what he's trying to accomplish. And so he's playing a style that works. And football teams do this a lot, which is, hey, you're playing a team that's bigger and more physical up front. So you don't try to attack up the middle unless you're Chip Kelly against Michigan, but you attack in different ways where they're weak and your strengths are emphasized. And that's the way he kind of coaches in basketball. As you mentioned with Northwest Missouri State, which is a program actually I know very well. I was there in St. Joe, Missouri from 2000 through 2006. I was the sports editor of the St. Joseph News Press in Northwest Missouri. And I had beat writers covering Northwest Missouri State for football and men's basketball and women's basketball. And same thing with Missouri Western, who's a big rival. They're 42 miles apart. So so I was actually at some games that he was at. So I asked him about Steve Tapmeyer, his coach and stuff. He was kind of blown away that I knew that and kind of mentioned to him later, but they get pretty decent talent there because in that area, like kids in the Quad Cities, if you're not a Big Ten guy, if you're not an Iowa State guy, you're probably going to where, Illinois State, maybe Northern Illinois, maybe UNI, a couple of schools like that. Yeah. Well, in the Kansas City area, Division II is a big deal, and it's not a bad league. And he was able to get some really good players that were probably Division I. And now we see the players he brought with him at Drake, and absolutely Bennett Sturts could be at any place in the country, and he's going to be in Iowa City. But you look at the numbers. Over his last 9 years, they won 4 national titles. He was at every single year, they averaged more than 73 points a game. Only once they allowed more than 65. Wow. Every single year they scored 50% from the floor or more. I mean, that is incredible. That means you're very efficient. You're giving up bad shots for good shots. And only once out of that 9-year period did they allow more than 45% from the floor. So, and they were 253 and 28 over that period. Ooh. And so you look at that, and what I see is not Todd Licklider. I see Bo Ryan, who had 4 national titles in Wisconsin as a D3 coach. Then he went and had a cup of coffee. I think it was at Wisconsin Milwaukee for 2 years, and then took over at Wisconsin and became a Hall of Fame coach, took him to the Final Four. What style of play did he kind of have? It looked slow. It was very efficient. It was defensive oriented. But when you had the players, you got fast. You played fast, but they still played with very efficiency. A lot of the hallmark of the Bo Ryan era was, give up a good shot to get a great shot, almost like the San Antonio Spurs for a while with Tim Duncan and those guys. I think that's the ideal offense here. And he said, they'd like to be like 7th in the Big Ten in scoring and those areas. And I think that's certainly possible because the other side is, Matt, that I think about like Iowa under Fran. I think his style was very entertaining on offense, and it was fun to watch at times, but it was always a detriment to their defense because when you're playing that high tempo, you better have the athletes to then be able to defend. Yeah. And even though they had really good, skillful players, they weren't athletic enough to play both offense and defense with equal abilities. And if you play a slower tempo, because of the players he recruited, they just, you have a couple who maybe could, but the rest couldn't. Now you have an ability to recruit players that fit a system that can do it on equal ends of the floor and produce. Because I look at like Peyton Sanford, and it was fun to watch him with Fran, but I think in this offense, with this team, he would have been incredibly efficient.
Yeah, you look at, and that's what I think, and that was my next thought was, you look at how this looks, and you put a Josh Dix in the system and some of the other players in the system, it's going to be fun to watch. Obviously, we got to look at a roster because There's nobody there. Bennett Sturts is there, and I think Traore and Tajdo might still be on the roster. I don't know. I don't think they've really said anything yet. But obviously, when you add a guy that might be one of the top three point guards in the country, that helps out a ton. What else does this look like? Because I love the fact that Ben McCollum was like, we want Josh back. We want Price back. We want Coop back, and didn't call them out in a negative way, but made it obvious. He was transparent. Hey, he recruited from the podium yesterday in a way that not a lot of coaches can. Does he? I know it's $1 million question, so I'm not putting you on the spot, but what does it look like next year? Can he get some of those three, two of those three, one of those three to come back and start supplementing? Obviously, he'll bring some guys from Drake as well. What does this roster look like next year?
It's going to be a pretty new roster. I mean, it's pretty obvious right now. And he had to deal with that at Drake because Darren DeVries took a lot of good players, including his son, to West Virginia. And there was only like 2 scholarship guys. And to see the way he built it and turned it into a team that won an NCAA tournament, a first round game, an official game for the first time since 1971, it shows that he can do that. I think when you look at Iowa, can he get those guys? I mean, you obviously know Brock and Owen way better. I wouldn't even pretend to know them as well as you. I think they're gone. Yeah. So that's fine. They moved on. Everybody else moves on. I think that there's some opportunity there. I mean, when Price Sanford discussed, he is keeping an open mind with Iowa. His brother was at the press conference yesterday. So there is an opportunity there, I think, for him to listen. And that's really what you need and want. After that, it's up to them. I think in his case, this would be, again, kind of like with his brother, a perfect offense for him. He could get to be a better player playing this style of play. Now, does he feel comfortable with Ben McCollum? That remains to be seen. I think Josh Dix is capable. I mean, he's highly sought after. I mean, you talked about $1 million question. It is literally $1 million question with him. But a backcourt with Bennett Sturts and Josh Dix, I think that could go a long way. That could be one of the better ones in the Big Ten immediately, if not among the top couple. But he's got a market, so he's got to decide and where he's got family situation. His mother's has cancer, so if it's Creighton, it's nearby to his hometown of Council Bluffs, and and Cooper Koch, that one's a tough one because that's what he should have said. He should have brought out J.R. Koch's name.
Yes, I thought the same thing, Doc. I did.
Yeah, like, he should have brought out J.R. Koch, but maybe to his credit, he decided, that would be pandering too much, and he wanted to come across as authentic. So maybe he's thinking more than I am about that stuff. But he's already on campus, so you have that opportunity. It's built in. You can have these conversations, and then it's up to the players to decide, I'm comfortable with him, I want to stay. They're going to pony up the resources, or you know what, I think I want a fresh start. And so it's kind of hard for me to predict what's the next step. But they're going to get players, and they're going to compete. And if you got Bennett Sturts, other players are going to say, I want to play with the best point guard in the country.
Yeah, and I want to talk to you about that because I think some people are late to the Bennett Sturts party, if that makes any sense. I think it was maybe the Valley tournament that he kind of got some love, and then people like, wow, this guy's really good. And then obviously the NCAA tournament as well. And you said that, one of the best point guards in the country, maybe the best point guard in the country at Iowa. And I'm a Brock Harding guy. Mike Gazelle is my financial planner and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. He's a great human being, and I loved watching him play. Absolutely. But point guard, there hasn't been, and I'm Jordan Bohannon, all those guys. Fran's had good point guards. It's been a minute since the best player on Iowa's basketball team has been the point guard. And that's what it'll be next year. And I think that's what Ben McCollum does really well when it comes to point guards. How good is this young man? And you've probably seen him more than maybe the rest of the Iowa fans. They're getting, I would argue, I'd rather have Bennett Sturts than Tucker DeFreeze next year if I'm starting over for 1 year. Your thoughts on Bennett Sturts and how good is he?
When you look at him athletically, he's pretty good. But you would never look at him and say, wow, that's elite talent. But what he does is he gets the most out of his talent. and he plays it with such high efficiency at a rate where he doesn't necessarily get tired. He never leaves the floor. I think he's number one in the country in minutes played per game. And that's, your durability is huge when you're playing that position, because you can conduct the offense. And one of the things that, even though, he led the Valley in scoring at 19 points a game, steals, he was second in assists, just an amazing, efficient player. Larry Bird, player of the year, and had stats that were comparable to Larry Bird. So you just kind of sit in awe of that. But I think what he does is he immediately makes it a credible place for everybody, and establishes that credibility from day one. And as you mentioned, I think the last point guard that's probably in that territory is Jeff Horner, 20 years ago. I mean, they've had some good ones. Like David Marble was probably I thought maybe a little better player, but he was more of a two. He could handle the one. Mike Smart, smartest guy I never met playing sports. I know. And I was, he hit me up one day about, the financial part of it. And I thought, if I didn't have somebody already set up,
he's good.
You're the first person I would call. I know that. So, so he, scored 1,000 points. He was pretty efficient too. And Jordan Bohannon, great 3-point shooter, good distributor of the ball. But this is a different one. This is like going from, a good quarterback to a great quarterback, and what they can do for everybody around them is special. And so if you're in the portal and you're looking at, maybe you're, if you take the highest dollar, go for it. But one of the things he kind of highlighted, Ben McCollum, was maybe sometimes, the pitch isn't the best pitch for you. If they're really coming at you really hard, sometimes you got to take a step back, and that could include financially. If you come to Iowa and you have 1 or 2 years left, and you look and they're like, wow, this guy's going to get me the ball and great opportunities, and I'm looking for that disciplined system that's really going to enhance what I do well, and I'm going to make it mutually beneficial and do the same thing. Maybe you'll take a little less money and come to Iowa, and then in turn become a really good player, as opposed, and build your resume that way. I think that's all possible here. But Sturtz, this is the blessing of having a coach who grew up an Iowa fan, who's from the state of Iowa, and he coached one of the best players in the country. Because now, if you didn't have this, it would be a real grind to try to keep your own players, the ones that are in the portal now, and then also ultimately to sign new players.
A few more for Scott Dochterman joining us on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Doc, the word resources, I think, was used yesterday. Did Iowa, and it seems like everybody's on the same page, and nobody knows a number and all those kind of things, but did Iowa learn anything from this entire situation when it comes to NIL? Do you feel like, obviously they're not going to be a top echelon basketball program when it comes to money right now, but do you feel, or is there a feeling they've learned a little bit, they're giving a little more, they're open to doing more? And obviously a lot of that has to do with people giving to them and all those kind of things as well. Have they learned from the NIL situation at all?
Yeah, I would say so. I would also say that, we had Beth on the side, Ben talked about it. And then later on kind of had another side conversation off record with Beth, and that we got approached. And she was hesitant to mention specific numbers. And I understand that some schools are way open with it. But I do think that she mentioned a couple of times that the number is nowhere near as low as people are mentioning. And so if that's the case, if she's kind of throwing that out there, you've almost got to look at it as probably in the $4 to $5 million range at least. And that's not, maybe some of that, most of that is internal, maybe some of it is external. But she said multiple times, especially at the end, that he wouldn't be here if we didn't commit those resources. That was a really important part of it. And so if that is, then you've got to do that. And now, are they going to be in Indiana's ballpark? No. Indiana's in its own world. It spends like Kentucky and Kansas and those other schools, but this is kind of a public-private partnership. I mean, in 2 weeks, the whole world's going to change if the settlement goes through on April 8th. And that allows athletic departments to spend up to $20.5 million. And although she wouldn't commit to percentages or anything, the common percentage is about 70 to 75% for football. And then, so that leaves you at like, probably between 14 and 15 million for football, and then kind of divide it up there the rest of the way you want to. And, I think that's, how much of that $6.5 million chunk is left for men's basketball. There's women's basketball. There's also wrestling, a lot of it's on the side now anyway. Maybe they keep that separate. I don't know. But I think the resources are there. The resources are there to compete. And she said to compete in the Big Ten. And if you can do that, that puts you in the mid-pack. If you're Iowa, you can compete.
A good listener, a good viewer on social media asked me, does Iowa have any interest in getting a general manager? I know it's something that's happened more often at other schools. Do you know anything? Have you heard anything? Is that a good thing for Iowa? Is there anything out there about a general manager at the University of Iowa?
That was not brought up specifically on Tuesday. My guess, and I'm just guessing here or speculating, it's probably a better word, is yes. That's happened on the women's side, where one of their assistants, Sullivan, I think it's Sean Sullivan, I may be wrong, but is a kind of partial assistant, partial general manager. And I would expect one of the assistants or somebody to fill that type of role, because you have to in this day and age with as much, it's a transient sport. So many players are come and go every year from every program that you've got to keep your eyes out on that. And you can't just expect whenever the coach is the end of the season, it's like, all right, now let's look at the portal. I mean, Iowa football has one. Iowa women's basketball has one. I guarantee Iowa men's basketball will have some in some capacity, whether that's one of their assistant coaches, whether that's they decide let's merge the video coordinator role with this. That's up to him. He just started, so he's probably got a lot of things to work on it, starting with calling those former players and trying to get them back in the fold. So, but I imagine once he fills out his staff, that's something that will be very important to him.
All right, last one on Ben McCollum, and then I want to ask you about Fran and Penn. But and you brought it up. I'm not kidding you. It's the first person that ever brought it up to me. And now it's happening on social media. Shelby Kluver, who you worked with at WQAD, brought it up. Do you really think I look like Ben McCollum?
Absolutely. I mean, there's been a couple of pictures of him when I saw him in his green tie at Northwest Missouri State, and then at Drake, and I'm like, wow, Randazzo's coaching now. Once he left WQAD, he's over in Des Moines now coaching basketball. So I thought he's your doppelganger. So you should come over and dress up just like him just to see if people respond.
I may do that. He doesn't have these ears, Doc. Like, that's the problem, is he's got decent size ears. He's got a normal size, I should say. He doesn't have these ears, but yeah, no, I had a couple buddies today say they were scrolling through Twitter, and as they do, they're like, wait a minute, that's McCollum. So I didn't notice it. I'll take his bank account. I'll tell you that right now. I'll take his bank account over my bank account right now. But I do think that is funny. You're the first person who brought it up the other day, and now other people doing it as well. Hey, all I can say to that is we're both handsome men. I guess that's the only thing I can say to that. So, Doc, there is
you have a combined 7 kids. So
there you go. So at least 2 women in this world think that we're halfway decent looking. So that works. I don't even know. My wife thinks halfway, but Fran McCaffery and Penn. Seems like it makes sense. I know it's being reported today. In today's day and age, Doc, I don't even know what's reported and not reported, but it sounds like it's a close to being. It's what I heard about maybe a week and a half ago after the firing. It seems to make sense. That would be a good fit for Fran, wouldn't it?
Oh, for sure. I mean, Fran is a good coach. No question about it. I mean, he's the winningest coach in Iowa basketball history. Went to 7 NCAA tournaments and an 8th. You could pretty much count it. Was the COVID year. Coached 2 first-team All-Americans, something that hadn't been done. A first-team All-American since the 50s. So he is a really good coach. The fit was waning here. It happens a lot in every sport. It just takes more time at Iowa than anywhere else. Going to Penn, that's where he graduated from. He's a Wharton School graduate, played there, got the nickname White Magic while he was there. And I think, being from Philly and playing in that area, I think that it makes a lot of sense. And, he's a very young 65, and, he could coach for several more years. That style of play, I think, will bring in competitive players. They're all going to be smart. You got to be smart to get to an Ivy League school. There's no question about that. So I think it's a great fit for him. And I'm glad he's coaching, because he is a really good coach. No matter what the strain was with him and, fans, media, whatever here, he deserves to coach, and I'm sure he'll be successful there. And who knows, maybe in a year or two, you'll see a 3-14 game in the NCAA tournament featuring Iowa and Penn. And it'll be interesting to see how that would transpire.
Wouldn't that be fun? I don't know if they're scheduling home and homes anytime soon, but maybe in the tournament, that would be a lot of fun. Hey, Doc, I know you're taking a breath, but you got football today. So that happens right away. So you don't get to relax too much. You've done a fantastic job covering this entire thing. Talk about The Athletic, because I know people wonder where you're at and what you're doing, all that kind of stuff. The Athletic stuff is outstanding. Talk about how they can get your content and continue to get your coverage, not just on Iowa, but on the Big Ten in general, and stuff on a national setting. My good friend Scott Weiss, you know him as well. Weezy loves reading your stuff, loves The Athletic. So how can people get it?
Yeah, just sign up at theathletic.com. We have specials all the time. I couldn't tell you what one we have now, but a lot of times it's $2 a month, $24 a year. Yeah, I always felt like when I joined The Athletic in 2018 that we kind of fill that vacuum left behind by the magazine Sports Illustrated, because we have those types of stories, those deep dives. We have some of the most talented reporters and writers in the world that work for us, and we cover every sport. I cover college football primarily, also some college basketball. As you see, I've kind of moved over into that void, and I do it on a kind of a regional level, but of course all the stuff going on with Iowa, that made it natural for me to fit into there. But I think that we have NFL people. We have people at every Final Four spot. We're covering the women's tournament. We just had a couple of colleagues, put together a story where they talked to, I think, 50 different sources regarding officiating in women's basketball last week. And as we know, the officiating in women's basketball leaves a lot to be desired. And a lot of that had to deal with the 2023 women's championship game between Iowa and LSU and the problems there. And so you have that. We have NFL. I do a lot of draft coverage. We have baseball and that's starting up now, sort of unofficially in Japan last week. Now, this week it's all over the place. So, NBA playoffs, if you're into that. Of course, college football, I write about it. I'll have stories on the Illini, Iowa State, Hawkeyes, of course, and some other ones this spring. So we've got it all for you, and I hope people give us a shot if you haven't already.
Absolutely. The feature stuff is fantastic. That's you get the reporting and the all that kind of stuff from a lot of sources, but the feature stories and the in-depth stuff is a lot of good stuff. So, Scott, always appreciate you taking the time. I know you're extremely busy, so appreciate you doing this with us, and we'll talk to you real soon.
All right. Thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate it.
All right. That is Scott Dochterman from The Athletic. Did a fantastic job covering what was an interesting coaching search at the University of Iowa, a relatively short one. The Iowa Hawkeyes and Ben McCollum continuing to move forward now, and we'll see how quickly a roster, a staff, all those kind of things get put together, because in today's age of college basketball, March Madness is really exciting, but this portal stuff, portal combat, as many people call it, is just as interesting. So you look at the NFL season, and then you have free agency. This is basically what's going on in college basketball. So Doc is as good as they get. So we appreciate him stopping by on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Wednesday. Almost said Monday. No, it is Wednesday. We are almost halfway home when it comes through the work week. Coming up, we got a lot of great stuff to get to. Got the chance to catch up with Trey Taylor. And you'll hear that next. He did a great job on Monday when it came to the Iowa-Illinois senior all-star game over at the Carver Center. But he leaves Moline as the all-time leading scorer in Moline history. So up next, Trey Taylor. And then coming up later on, we got Andrew Layman coming up. He might talk a little music. That's a hint. but also he's a big Iowa fan. We'll talk golf. We got Andrew Layman coming up in a little bit, and also my good friend T-Roy from the old Don't Hassle Us, We're Local days. We'll be back with the latest installment, the next tier when it comes to the .08 mock draft. So a lot to get to in hour two. Trey Taylor from Moline up next. You're watching Off the Air with Matt Randazzo on a Wednesday right here in the Quad Cities. All right, be honest. Are you craving Hungry Hobo again? You know, that fresh sliced meat piled high on those amazing sandwiches, hot off the grill chicken and steak with all those delicious toppings, the biggest and best selection of baked potatoes, or simply some waffle fries dipped in cheese. Well, now that Quad City favorite is even easier to get. Download the Hungry Hobo app today. Order ahead, skip the line, and earn rewards all at the same time. There's Double Points Monday and exclusive specials as well. With 12 locations in the Quad City area, it's Hungry Hobo. Now even easier to find, but still hard to resist. When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air here on a Wednesday in the Quad Cities. Of course, March Madness in full swing on the college hardwood. It's been a few weeks since we've been done on the high school level, which has given us a chance to kind of look back and reflect on a great year of high school basketball around the Quad City area. Some amazing careers came to an end, and they actually did on Monday night. They had the annual Iowa-Illinois Senior All-Star Game, and that's where we found this young man doing what he always does. Trey Taylor from Moline joining me now. Trey, I appreciate you doing this. I want to start by talking about Monday night, because it gave you that chance to put that uniform back on one last time. Yeah. What was it like to be out on the floor and put Moline across your chest one more time?
It was obviously grateful and definitely a blessing to go out there and play one more time, especially in a big environment like that and in front of a nice crowd. You know what I'm saying, and a bunch of elite players that are around the Quad Cities that I grew up with. I grew up with a lot of them. So to be able to play in the last game in the Quad Cities for me was extremely a proud moment for me.
Okay, so I know it's fun, and you know a lot of these guys, but you're playing with like Rocks, and you're playing with Pioneers, you're playing with Panthers. Is it okay to be friendly with those guys that you used to go to battle with for the last 4 years?
Yeah, I went to battle with them all 4 years. I never really got to, talk to them or, hang around them like I have for the past couple of days. We got very comfortable with each other at practice Sunday. So I thought that it was pretty cool that even though we went against each other for so many years and against so many games, that we were able to have that camaraderie and, and build some type of friendship. But I think that, it really didn't matter. We wanted to win, so I think that's what really brought us together.
Absolutely. Trey Taylor from Moline joining us right now and off the air with Matt Randazzo. You didn't just play, you played good, being named MVP. So your last high school basketball game, 28-10 and MVP. I know it's an exhibition game, but one, you wanted to win, and two, you wanted to play well, didn't you?
Oh yeah, of course. I wasn't really focused on, doing a great job. I was more just trying to have fun, and get ready to for the dunk contest. But I mean, at the end of the game, when we were able to, achieve something like that, it was pretty good.
Trey, I want to look back at your high school career because it seems like years ago, but it wasn't. It was just 2 years ago that Moline was winning a state championship. You were a sophomore and a key part of that team. And now you are leaving Moline as the all-time winningest player in program history. When you say that and you look at the tradition behind Moline and the players that have gone through there, that little point guard of yours, that big guy that came in, AC Earl, you go back a long, long time. You're the all-time winningest player, 115 victories. What does that mean to you?
It means a lot. I achieved something great, and I didn't know much about it, through the course of my career. But obviously when the coach told me that I have an opportunity to achieve this goal and just to, be consistent, what I've been doing, it's obviously the greatest thing. Definitely for someone that's in high school, to play at a varsity level for all 4 years, that is something that is awesome. It is definitely a great achievement. And it should be written in history in stone, and I think that's something that someone should strive for as they play varsity.
It's awesome because a lot of young people look at points and rebounds and what their box score looked like. And you had a lot of good box scores, young man. Don't act like you didn't. But winning meant a lot to you. And I could tell that from a young age with you, with that state championship run and being around those guys as well. When did winning become the most important thing? Has it always been the most important thing in your basketball life?
In my basketball life, it's definitely been important, but I played many other sports. Even if I didn't play any sports, I always try to go outside and do something, that was competitive, like with my friends and stuff like that. So I've definitely been in that competitive nature for a long time in my life. And I think that, it's obviously the greatest thing, and it's the greatest feeling to win something, but to achieve it, consistently and to achieve it at a high level, it's undescribable.
Joined right now by Trey Taylor, Moline standout. Your senior season, and you guys experienced a lot of success. What was it like, even these last 2 years for you, Trey, after that state championship, maybe taking more of a leadership role vocally and being the guy after that state championship, your sophomore season?
I think going into my senior season, I definitely wanted to leave more of a mark for this year for myself, but definitely for the other individuals on the team too. I think that we had a great team going into in the summer. Towards the end of the season, we had some injuries and some sickness, but I feel like those guys faced adversity very, very greatly. They had some big injuries towards the end. Some guys were sick. Some guys really couldn't, they couldn't breathe as well. And I think that they showed toughness. They definitely did. And I wanted to have that leadership role because we brought up some younger guys from the JV, the sophomore team. So I wanted to have that leader role and just establish like they need to understand like this is, you know what I'm saying, this is Moline basketball. We have a standard here. So I think that going into my senior year, I wanted more of the leadership role for sure.
Now that it's all said and done, can you reflect a little more on that state championship? Because it doesn't happen very often. It doesn't happen easily in this state. And be able to do it first time since, Rock Island did it with Chase and Randall and those guys in 2011. Have you been able to reflect more on what a special run that season was? You're a state champion and nobody can ever take that away.
Right. And it's definitely something to look back on. Even though it's been a couple years, I definitely have, easy memories of the whole experience, the whole journey that year. From going to the hotels, going to eat out, having team dinners and all that type of stuff. I definitely will enjoy that forever. And reflecting on that, looking back at it, I mean, we definitely came from a big point. Like my freshman year, we came from, we changed the whole system pretty much. We had we had a tall guy come in, then we changed up a lot of the offense, a lot of the defense. But I mean, all the guys on the team stood by it. They definitely executed well throughout the whole season. I mean, for our first game that we lost, at a very tough game, to our last one when we won in the state championship, it shows how great that we were and how great that we stood by and had the greatest outcome.
The banner is going to sit there at Wharton Fieldhouse for a long, long time, which is a beautiful thing. Hang there, not sit there, but hang there. Let's talk about your future. Emporia State. Talk about that decision, what led you to there, and obviously it's exciting to now look at that next level. I know you could take a little bit of a breather, maybe enjoy life a little bit, but you're right back to work and getting ready for the college level as well.
Yeah, definitely getting ready for that college level as soon as possible. I know I've been looking forward to going to play at a college level. I just never had the decision in mind during the season, so I wanted to make my decision after the season for sure. And then, Emporia has been riding my tail for a long time. They've offered me back in June 24, and they just pretty much stayed consistent with me. When we went out for the visit, they definitely showed me and my family that they were welcoming and very inviting. They have a good brotherhood system out there for their team, and they definitely want to compete and win. So I thought that style of their basketball was top tier, and I think that right there is, a very good home for me.
You've been coached by a Hall of Famer and a goofball, in my opinion, when it comes to Coach Taylor. Now that he can't make you run, what is it like to be coached by Sean Taylor?
It's extreme. I mean, he has huge passion, huge love for the game, even though he, he may show it in more of outrage or anger, frustration, he shows it with that type of emotion because that's how fired up he is. He's so fired up for the game in the locker rooms, for practice, for, just at school. Like, he's always fired up for the game and for practice. I mean, he makes it, the top moments of his life. He definitely enjoys what he does. I think that he's the greatest coach of all time in my eyes, and whoever that doesn't see that, I would love to hear what their argument is about, but I know that Coach Taylor is the greatest, and he means so much for the game. He does so much for the community and the players. He shows love. He shows so much love, but I mean, he does have that outrage, so it comes with it.
Okay, do you have a Sean Taylor story? What's your favorite Coach Taylor story that you can tell us? And if you need to edit it at all, you can edit it if you need to. Is there a fun Coach Taylor story that you can tell us about?
Definitely. I don't know what year it was, I don't know what year it was, but it was a while ago. We had he won a big game. I think it was at Augie. It was at Augie. I want to say my sophomore year. I think it was my freshman year or sophomore year. He won his game. I think it was one of his I think it was 600 games. So I think it was my freshman year. And for me, that was huge because I never know what I'm saying, see the coach so excited to come in the locker room and celebrate with the team. But for the team, we got huge bottles of water, and we dumped it on him, and he was drenched. And I mean, the guy was extremely excited. He was jumping up and down. He was celebrating with us. So he definitely, you know what I'm saying, he enjoyed it a lot more getting wet than just, you know what I'm saying, actually winning the game. So I thought that was a pretty good moment for me, especially coming in as my freshman year.
Absolutely. Do you have a Sean Taylor impression? Can you try one? Could you do one?
A huge one that he did at practice was, especially towards me, he liked to introduce me to the guys, because the guys wouldn't pass me the ball even though if I was wide open. So he would always stop practice, and he'd be like, Trey, raise your hand. So I'd like, raise my hand. He was like, guys, this is Trayvon. I don't know if you guys know him, but he is, you know what I'm saying, the Trayvon Taylor. He's, you know what I'm saying, he's been here. He's a big factor in our offense. Another one is he'd be like, God damn it, Trey. And that was a huge one. That was a big one that he pulled out.
I love it. I love it. That's well done. Some fun questions before we let you go. Do you have now I know you got to start looking towards college, but do you have like I have too many of them, a pig out meal, like a meal, a place to go. I don't want to say favorite food because everybody's got like a favorite food or whatever, but a place that's like, I'm going to let it go and I'm just going to pig out. We won a game or whatever. Where's that place to go to, or what's that thing you need to have?
So a big one that we've been going to for the past couple of years was Steak and Shake. That was definitely like a big thing that we went to after a win during the conference games. We'll go to Steak and Shake. Another place I would go to just to go pig out, or just to, you know what I'm saying, relax and eat with the friends or family, is like Poncheros for sure.
Okay.
But then definitely Oishi, Hibachi. We'll go there to Osaka.
Osaka.
Yeah.
Okay. I like it. If you could play, those are your places. If you could play one-on-one with one person in the entire world, no matter who would it be, and why?
I'd play against KD. I'd play against Kevin Durant. That is my favorite player of all time. I think that Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time, but I think the best scorer, the best, you know what I'm saying, basketball player is KD. That's my opinion.
I appreciate that you preference that with some MJ love. I'm an old guy, so I appreciate that big time as well.
Yes,
that's a very good thing. If you weren't playing basketball, what sport would you be playing?
I think it would probably just be baseball. I was a baseball player for a couple of years when I was younger in middle school, and I was really good at it. I mean, I was, you know what I'm saying, I was fourth hitter, you know, so I would, you know what I'm saying, I would be the last hitter. I was pitcher for most of my baseball career, so I was, you know what I'm saying, I was pretty good. I played a lot of other spots too, first base, second base, shortstop, and I played outfield a couple times, but I was mostly a first base pitcher, you know what I'm saying, a really good hitter.
All right, last one for you before I let you go. I had both those knuckleheads that used to play basketball with you a few years ago. Brock and Owen have both been on the show separately, and Brock told me that if Owen gets too annoying, that he can take care of him, like physically, like he could muscle up against Owen. If Owen and Brock got into a fight,
right,
a physical fight, what would happen?
Right. I truly know the answer to that, and I mean, Brock might feel some type of way about that because he has, you know what I'm saying, he has a huge ego, but he definitely knows that if he was to fight Owen, you know what I'm saying, it would be a battle, but at the end of the day, Owen would definitely win that.
I love it. Hey, Trey, you have been a delight to cover for 4 years, and I feel like if I had a dime for every time I called your name on TV, I could have actually retired and not done a different show, because you've been doing it for a long time. You do it with class, a fantastic conversation. You're a great basketball player. You're a good young man off the court as well. I've enjoyed to get to know you a little bit. I appreciate you doing this. Best of luck at Emporia State, and keep doing big things. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Good luck at this next level and next journey that you're at too. Appreciate you for everything.
Awesome. That is Trey Taylor, Moline basketball player, all-time winningest player and Moline basketball history. We got a lot more to get to here on Off the Air on a Wednesday here in the Quad Cities. We'll be right back. When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with. All right, be honest. Are you craving Hungry Hobo again? You know, that fresh sliced meat piled high on those amazing sandwiches, hot off the grill chicken and steak with all those delicious toppings, the biggest and best selection of baked potatoes, or simply some waffle fries dipped in cheese. Well, now that Quad City favorite is even easier to get. Download the Hungry Hobo app today. Order ahead, skip the line, and earn rewards all at the same time. There's Double Points Monday and exclusive specials as well. With 12 locations in the Quad City area, it's Hungry Hobo. Now even easier to find, but still hard to resist. Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air on a Wednesday here in the Quad Cities. Thanks so much for joining us. It's been a fun first hour already. We had Scott Dochterman from The Athletic talking about Ben McCollum and the University of Iowa basketball program. That was a ton of fun. Also, another thank you to Trey Taylor. Really a fun kid to cover for 4 years. He leaves as Moline's winningest player in program history, 115 victories. So that was a lot of fun. Also, can't wait to hopefully Brock and Owen hear about the fight and see if they weigh in and agree. So March Madness is winding down, and I love the NFL season, but one thing I love more than the NFL season itself is actually the NFL draft, and it's coming up real soon. April 24th begins on a Thursday, and we're joined now by our good friend T-Roy. You there, buddy?
Yes, I am. Do you got me? Am I loud and clear, or
you are
is
loud
it
and
bad?
clear. No, it's good.
Okay, good.
You look as
All right.
handsome as ever.
Well, I try to be. So anyway, I apologize if there's background noise, but I am. So I'm at we have a new business we're launching, and I don't know if I told you about it, but
No.
it's a wine and spirits store out by the Betplex.
Oh yeah.
So I had to be here today. We're setting beer in today, so it's a pretty big operation. So it's going to be fun. We're excited about it. So if you're out this way, Daz, and you're looking to get like a little wine for the wife, because I know you're a romantical guy. Angora doesn't have the corner of the market when it comes to romance. You pop in here, get some wine at Willie's Wine and Spirits.
Willie's Wine and
So
Spirits.
yeah, we should be
the only
should
way
be
I
open
get
some
any romance
point next month.
Troy, the only way I get any romance is wine. Like that's the only possible way there's anything romantic that ever happens with me. So
it's the international language of love, right?
It is. So tell people about it. It's Willie's Wine and More. It's up there by the
Willie's Wine and Spirits.
And Spirits. I'm sorry, Willie's Wine and Spirits. Tell us about it. Yeah,
so it's right. It's just if you were teeing off from the Iron Tee, Yeah, and you shanked one to the right, you would hit our building. It's out facing Forest Grove Drive. It's right there. You can't miss it. Big sign on the back, big sign on the front. Just drawing everybody in. So yeah, that's what we're doing. We're really excited about it, and that's basically how I've been spending my entire week is here and just doing stuff for this. Other than getting prepped for this, mock draft. Which man, big news yesterday, huh? I think it's going to mess up my first 6 picks though.
Do you think it will? Because I'm going to reset them here in a second. But real fast, you're up there at the Willie's Wine and Spirits. How drunk are you right now?
Yes, sir.
How drunk?
Not at all. I can't. Yeah, no, I can't go on your show drunk.
Yes, you can. I'm
There's-
liquored up half
well,
the
there's
days.
nothing to drink yet. But now that you said that, next week you're screwed.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so last week, I love this. It's the .08 mock draft from our good friend T-Roy. If anybody doesn't know T-Roy, remember T-Roy. Him and Jay Foster, they did a great show back, and Serge, back in the day. Don't Hassle Us, we're local. You guys were awesome. So the .08 mock draft last week, he gave us the first 6, and they were Titans, Cam Ward, number 1 overall. Browns, Abdul Carter, number 2. Giants, they picked Shadir Sanders, which I know they signed Russell Wilson, but that's not the answer, is it?
Well, I think it's a terrible. Yeah, now all of a sudden he's just a journeyman. I mean, this will be his 3rd team in 3 years.
Yeah.
Well,
So
actually, fourth and 4 if you count leaving Seattle. So Seattle, Denver, 1 year in Pittsburgh, and now he's in New York. And he's not going to like the hot seat he's going to get in New York. But okay, so yeah, and that's the thing. I'm like, does it change it? I don't know. I have we'll call it the .10 if we need to. But I'm going to stick with what I had. We're just getting a little drunker as the draft goes with the free agent signings, if you will. But yeah, so I left it the same. I have the next 5 picks. I love, where we ended at. So I'll let you finish the recap.
Yeah,
Daz.
so
I didn't want to interrupt you on that.
No, you're good. Number 4, Patriots, Will Campbell. Number 5, Mason Graham to the Jaguars. Number 6 is Ashton Genty to the Raiders. So we're going to do 7 through 11 today. Is that right? Or 10?
Yes, sir. Yep, 7 through 11.
Through 11, okay. And in that includes the Chicago Bears. So Bears fans.
That's right. So
Bears
Bears
fans
fans out there.
About the Bears. But we'll start at number 7, that other New York team. The Jets are on the clock.
Jets, Jets. All right, so we all know that they signed Justin Fields. So the quarterback need is gone. I think Fields is still serviceable. I think he might be able to do well. Obviously, he's reconnecting with Garrett Wilson. So what I did here is there was another offensive tackle that performed very well at the combine. And maybe you've heard of him, maybe you haven't, Daz. But Armin Mimbu from the Zoo.
Okay, yeah, yep.
His stock went up. So he became the second best offensive tackle that was available after Will Campbell. So I have the Jets taking him because they have the weapons, right? They have receivers, they have the running back. They need to protect Justin Fields and go for what they can get. And so I have them taking Armin Mimbu. God, I'm going to say that terrible. Armin Mimbu at 7.
All right, so he goes to the Jets. I'm going to let you say it. I'm not going to mess it up. But that means Travis Hunter is still on the board, T-Roy, which is very interesting. I don't think many people have him going much lower than now. We go to the Panthers at number 8. Is that the landing spot for Travis Hunter?
That is absolutely landing spot for Travis Hunter. It gives Bryce Young a weapon. Obviously, they're a young team. They're going to need a lot more than just Travis Hunter. But yeah, Travis Hunter is going at 8 to the Panthers. So I know one Panther fan. She's delusional. Her name's Shelly. But this is what they need in a way. But they need so much more. Other needs that the Panthers have, by the way, defensive line and edge rushers. But they're going to jump at Travis Hunter.
Where does he play?
Arguably one of the most athletic guys.
Is he a wide receiver? Is he doing both? Is he a cornerback? Where does he fit in your eyes?
I think
I can't even see.
It's kind of like last.
Bend
I'm
down.
sorry.
There you
Come
go.
down.
There you go.
So
Come on down to us.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's hard to tell where I'm at with this. I would say he plays wide out, right? I just, if he comes in and plays any sort of D back, it's going to be on a, not going to be an every down situation. Maybe if he comes in and helps with some nickel coverage, right? I just, we talked about this last week. I cannot see in the NFL someone being able to survive playing both ways, right?
Yeah. It's so hard, man. And they have trouble getting, staying healthy when they're playing, only one position. You look at the injuries in a violent game, it is going to be tough to play both. I know he wants to, but it's got to be tough to play both. But he's just a super talent, obviously.
Yeah, for sure he is, and like I said, it's he's not falling past there. I maybe I got something wrong here. Maybe the Jets do jump at him, but I don't know. If you're going off team needs, this is how I have to call it. So
no, and I agree. You give someone like that to Bryce Young, who showed progress last year. I mean, he needs some help. He needs some weapons and all that kind of stuff.
And they already have Leggett, who I believe didn't get the chance to shine at all last year. But you add this, you have this dual threat. They have Jonathan Brooks in the stable. Obviously, he didn't really play much last year. If he can come to form, they have weapons, right? So see what the Panthers can do.
No, I agree. Number 9, the Saints. What are their needs and where do the Saints go?
Well, who day, right? The Saints need a lot. This is where in the .10 draft that could be different. The things might change if you don't see Shedeur go at 3. But sticking with my OG, with my original draft, needs for the Saints: edge rusher, huge; wide receiver, huge; offensive tackle, next one down. Everything I sourced out, that's what they're saying. At this point, if you're looking at who's available, obviously there is another good wideout out there. I don't know if they reach, though. I think they go for that edge rusher so that they can try to, obviously the pass rush is huge in the NFL. But I would have to say it goes quarterback, edge rusher, corner, and then your wideouts.
Yeah.
In my eyes, obviously, after you build your interior line. With that being said, I feel the Saints are going to take the edge rusher from Georgia, Michael Williams.
Okay. Is he the best edge on the board?
On the rankings, Daz, he is. Now, there's a couple other guys that, after Abdul Carter, he is.
Yes. Okay.
So he's the best available. And then you also there's a hybrid out there, linebacker edge, Campbell too, as well. So, there was a couple guys. Or, I'm sorry, it was that Pierce Jr. I might have been thinking of Pierce Jr.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Yeah. No.
But and then there's a Jalen Walker as well as a hybrid. So, but as the rankings that I've accumulated, I had Michael Williams as the next best available edge rusher at that point.
Georgia guys usually do pretty good. You know what I mean?
Right. Especially defensively, right? I mean, they really tend to shine in the NFL. So we've seen that. I mean, obviously, look at what the Eagles did. They drafted a lot of defensive Georgia Bulldogs, and it didn't hurt them at all, did it?
No, right? No. I mean, usually you go Alabama, you go Georgia on defense, and you're going to have a pretty good defense. So we're in Green Bay.
Get a couple Iowa tight ends, and you're set, right?
Yeah, right? A little linebacker from Iowa, and maybe you're okay. That's And that's not for Pat. That's for Jack Campbell.
That's not for Pat. That's for other guys. Man.
Yeah, that's Jack Campbell. I mean, if you're Pat, you're out of the league in 4 years because you
yeah.
T-Roy, we're to the Bears. We're to the Bears.
Okay, the Bears are at 10. We are to the Bears. All right.
Hold on, T-Roy.
Bear down. Chicago.
Real fast.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be great because it's in Green Bay. So some Bears fans will go up there. But I just think the environment is what makes the draft really cool anymore because it's in Green Bay.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to boo. There's going to be some cheering. They've made a lot of moves this offseason. They've won the offseason once again for the 4th straight year. Where do the beloved Chicago Bears go with pick number 10?
All right. So this, I reached into my Bear knowledge bank, who is Mark Van Severen. The guy lives and breathes the Chicago Bears, because at this point, I'm like, Mark, you sure they're not going to take this? Yeah, what do you think about that? He's like, no. Everything I'm hearing, everything that's telling me this. And I go, even after the free agent moves, he goes, yes, the Bears need to continue to build the offensive line. I said, okay. If you're saying it, Mark, from your mouth to God's ears, right?
Right.
I feel that the Bears then are taking the other offensive tackle, the third one, off the board, and that'll be Kelvin Banks Jr. out of Texas. Boring pick, but if the Bears are going to do this and do it right, they now have a very formidable offensive line. And then second round rumors, they are going to go for a running back, and Caleb Johnson out of Iowa is the guy that I'm hearing.
You know what? I that's been the fit and the want, I think, for Bears and Iowa's fans for a while. I do agree with that. It might be boring, T-Roy, but like, you got to remember, Ben Johnson came from Detroit. Detroit's got one of the best 2 or 3 offensive lines in football, and he knows how important that is. And he saw a guy like Jared Goff, who was cast away, be really good in a system where he's protected
because of his old line.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, down goes T-Roy.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the so you think about it, when your Lions drafted a guy who I said at the time of one of my previous .08s, this guy is a guaranteed Hall of Fame offensive tackle, and that was Penn Sewell.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that Kelvin Banks is a guaranteed, Hall of Famer, but this kid ranks up there, and he's got all the tools, and you need that to protect your guy.
Yeah.
And you give that guy protection, you give that run game a little bit of chance. I mean, DeAndre Swift still has some in the tank. Granted, if you get Caleb Johnson, you got a different threat. You're looking good, Bears. You're looking really good. You already got the receiving threats. So,
all right.
I like the pick.
I do too. Let's
all
not
right,
get
sorry,
too excited about the Bears. Blah, 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 blah. Bears, Caleb Williams, blah, blah, blah. All right, one more for today. The Niners at 11. With the Cowboys, somebody's Cowboys sitting there at 12. Talk about the needs and what do you have for the Niners?
All right, so needs for the Niners: offensive tackle, edge rusher, and corner. Granted, they lost some stuff in free agency. A lot of people are going to look at the Debo loss and be like, "Oh, are you sure they're not going to take a wide receiver here?" And I'm like, I feel they found their kid with Pearsall. Is it Pearsall or Birdsall?
Yep.
I can't.
Yep, Pearsall.
Not a 49er fan.
Ricky Pearsall.
Yeah, Ricky. Yeah, and they still have their other weapons. Obviously, their tight end's a Hall of Famer, and he's going to be great. But they've lost a lot on defense. So I think from here they stick with their defensive needs, and they take the best corner in the draft, Will Johnson from Michigan.
He's a good one. Think about this too, Michigan fans. They beat Ohio State to end and be happy and all that kind of stuff. But you look at, and they did beat Bama, but look how talented that defense is. I mean, you already have one guy already going. I think there could be 3 or 4 Michigan guys in the top 15 when it comes on defense.
Yeah, I mean they have their tight end that's coming, and they have some other defensive players that rank extremely high, and when it comes to overall ranking. So. Yeah, we're definitely looking at a Michigan-heavy first round, and just hats off to what that program was able to do, the last 2 years. So
I love it. Sure. So let's recap them. Jets take the offensive tackle from Missouri that you butchered his name from. Panthers,
Armin Mimbu.
Love it. Panthers,
there's too many M's in that name, man.
Panthers take Travis Hunter. Saints take McCollum Williams. The Bears take the offensive tackle Banks, and then the cornerback Johnson from Michigan goes to the 49ers. That leaves your Cowboys up first next week. What I'm going to do next week too, T-Roy, is I'm going to get this graphic going so people don't have to look at us the whole time. They can watch it as it goes. That's my homework over the weekend, is to make this thing.
Well, the less of our faces on the air. Yeah, the less they can see of our faces is probably better.
Yeah.
And remember, I promised you each week I was going to bring you a funny little stat, NFL stat.
Love it. Bring it.
So this is the one. This is the one I grabbed off the internet. Okay. So 2015, let's think back to that year. Very talented wide receiver from the Pittsburgh Steelers AB, Antonio Brown. This is before he, started all of his antics, which his career kind of went down. But if you remember, this guy was extremely talented. So the first 3 games of that season, Big Ben gets hurt midway through game 3. But his stats for the first 3 games of the year, he had 436 yards receiving. He was averaging 145 yards per game. His next 3 games, he gets Michael Vick as his starting quarterback. That first and second game combined, he only has 87 yards.
Wow.
And then the third game, when Vick starts, Vick gets hurt. At the time Vick goes out, Antonio Brown has -2 yards. And then Landry Jones comes in, and he finishes with a meek 24 yards for the day. Very next week, Landry Jones gets the start. Antonio Brown, 124 yards receiving. He finishes the year with 1,723 yards, averaging 132 yards per game, even with those 3-4 games. We'll say 3 because that 4th game with Jones did great. So if he hadn't got hamstringed, the big what if, like that Marvel show, What If, because everybody knows I love Marvel. What if they either start Landry Jones or Ben doesn't get hurt? We could have been looking at the first 2,000-yard receiver in NFL history. If you do the math, he would have ended with 2,120 yards on an average of 132 yards per game.
Dude, he was so good. People don't realize how good
He was. Yeah.
I love that.
And you remember what the hit across the middle is what did him in. I think that gave him the CTE, and that started what's happened with him.
Yeah,
I really believe that.
He's a trip these days, my friend. He's a trip.
Oh, he's funny. He'll go on the internet and say anything that comes into his mind.
Yeah,
I mean,
which is scary.
it's. Well, some people find it entertaining. I find it sad because you really feel bad. Because I think, I don't think that's what he was supposed to be like.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
just one of those little things I see on the old interweb. Old guy.
CTE is scary.
It's real, man.
I watch it firsthand every day with a guy I know that comes on Mondays. But no, I'm just kidding. Speaking of him and speaking of yourself, we are going to have our first remote for Off the Air with Matt Randazzo at Oscars over in Bettendorf on April 24th from 5 to 7. We'll do the show that day. Instead of being from 10 to noon, we're going to move it from like 5 to 7 or something like that. And we'll be over at Oscars. Pat Anger is going to join us, hopefully. I think so. Pat. He doesn't know
We'll
what
be
he's doing
drinking
tomorrow.
beer.
We'll be drinking beer. A bunch of fun
Pat
stuff.
likes bourbon, though, so he might be drinking bourbon. So we'll see where that goes. But
we'll have
for
a lot
sure.
of fun.
I cannot wait. I can't wait till next week. I get to start out with Jerry's Cowboys and see if I can screw it up better than he can.
I love it. I love it. T-Roy, I appreciate you. We'll do this again next week. And if anybody's out and about, go and check out Willie's Wine and Spirits up there by, everybody knows where the Betplex is. Everybody knows where the the Top Golf or whatever. What is it? Top Golf or Iron Tea?
They say it's called Iron Tea.
Iron Tea. Yeah, everybody knows what that's at. So go check it out. T-Roy,
Well,
get back
man.
to work.
I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate the plug for Willie's. And great, man. Yeah, I'm going to get to work. These beer guys are giving me dirty looks from the corner over here. So
I love it. I love it. Go back to work. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, Daz. You have a good show, bud. Thanks.
All right. That is T-Roy from the old Don't Hassle Us for Local Days doing his .08 draft right here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. We'll do it again next Wednesday as well. Well, coming up next, we have some music news to get to, some golf to talk about, and some Iowa Hawkeyes to talk about with one of my good friends, the one and only Andrew Layman, tournament director at the John Deere Classic, will join us to talk all about maybe a little concert and a bunch more. We'll be right back on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. All right, be honest. Are you craving Hungry Hobo again? You know, that fresh sliced meat piled high on those amazing sandwiches, hot off the grill chicken and steak with all those delicious toppings, the biggest and best selection of baked potatoes, or simply some waffle fries dipped in cheese. Well, now that Quad City favorite is even easier to get. Download the Hungry Hobo app today. Order ahead, skip the line, and earn rewards all at the same time. There's Double Points Monday and exclusive specials as well. With 12 locations in the Quad City area It's Hungry Hobo, now even easier to find, but still hard to resist. When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Wednesday in the Quad Cities. A fun show so far. Scott Dochterman joined us off the top talking about Ben McCollum. If you missed that, go check it out. Also, Trey Taylor, Moline's all-time winningest player, 115 victories in his career. Just got the MVP on the on Monday's All-Star game down at Carver Hawkeye Arena. Joined us. That was a lot of fun. My good friend T. Roy talking about the NFL draft. And now we're going to get to some golf, some music, and of course his Hawkeyes as well. There's Andrew Layman. How are you, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, my friend?
You tell me. There's rumor roaming around the Quad Cities that you booked another concert, big timer. What do we got?
Well, first of all, I'm starting to get a little concerned for you a little bit, just based on the fact that, this show is soaring to new heights. I see these viewership numbers, and for some reason you keep bringing me on. I'm not quite sure what's going on, but in all seriousness, yeah, we're excited today. It's been in the works for a while, but we announced here about 30 minutes ago that we're going to have Dierks Bentley join us on Saturday. And, to pair Dierks with Zach Brown Band and have two world-class entertainers here, on the weekend. And if you've seen them live, they both are fantastic live performers and entertainers. And, both have catalogs that run, 15 to 20 songs deep. I think I saw Dierks Bentley, I think, has 18 number one hits over the course of his career on country radio. So, I don't even know if you can get to 18 hits in a 90-minute show.
No, I don't. People are going to walk out disappointed, Andrew, because they're going to say he didn't play this or he didn't play that. But kind of talk about the process, because, and I know we have some Hawkeyes to talk about as well, because Andrew is extremely excited about that. But Talk about the process. We talked about it with Zach Brown Band, but I love the way that the John Deere Classic, in my opinion, is the event when it comes to sports in the Quad Cities, especially during the summer. And it keeps you guys, relevant, interesting, it keeps you in the news, if you will, to announce these as you have. You did maybe a month or so ago, Zach Brown Band. Talk about the process. When did you figure out Dierks Bentley? And how excited are you guys to kind of continue these stages of getting people ready and ramped up for what's coming quickly, young man? You're going to actually do some work here real soon after doing nothing all winter.
99 days away from the 54th playing of the John Deere Classic.
That's wild.
Who's counting, though?
No, right?
No, it was fun. I would say the Zach Brown Band deal moved quicker than the Dierks deal. The Dierks one's been in the works for a while, and to get it across the finish line, we got the go ahead late yesterday that we were going to be able to announce it. So we had social media posts ready to go, press releases ready to go, and to get it across the finish line, it's awesome. To your point, Matt, about for us, it's exciting because it's really turned this thing into a true community event, and that's not the first time I've said this to you or your listeners. It's rewarding to have, world-class golf. There are 156 players that are going to show up here this summer and be in the field. And then to pair that with world-class, musical entertainment. And the best part about it is we want it to be affordable for a family. So kids 15 and under are free all week. Tickets are as low as, you can get in, early in the week for as low as $20 right now. And tickets go on sale next Tuesday on April 1st, and I would encourage people to buy their tickets early, but you can get in for as low as $50 and stay and watch golf all day, stay and watch, Zach Brown Band's a Grammy award winning artist. Dierks Bentley is a Grammy nominated artist. And, to put that together and have that be available for, our folks in this community, it's truly rewarding and turning it into a true community event. We've talked about the fact that it's a $72 million economic impact. And, the John Deere Classic, cuts a wide swath with our charity work here with Birdies for Charity. And to have John Deere be a world-class title sponsor and simply hands down probably the best on the PGA Tour. But they understand the value of the economic impact in this community because they're so ingrained in this community. And then couple that with the fact that, we did $15.9 million for charity last year. And we're going to cross the 200 million threshold this year. We'll cross 200 million in charitable giving in 2025.
Andrew, you kind of talk about it too, because it used to be, and it still is, but it used to be like, I got to get to the John Deere Classic for golf reasons. And that's where everybody had to be. And you're really making it an event where, if you're not at the John Deere Classic at some point during JDC week, you're truly missing out because there's something for everyone. It's encompassing, and what I found out, and we've talked about it before, you're watching the music fan like golf, and you're watching the golf fan, introduce himself to music maybe they've never heard before. Kind of talk about that, because it's really bringing things together and it's building golf as well, because people that might not ever gone to the John Deere Classic are going to go check out Dierks Bentley or Zach Brown Band, and they're going to say, wow, this is a lot of fun. I need to get back to this earlier next year for golf.
No, you're 100% right. And, I think we saw that in 2023 with the Darius show. And I remember, we closed out Sunday night with Blake Shelton, and to go up to the entrance pavilion in the mid-afternoon hour when a lot of the music fans are coming through the gates, they were cheering for the bagpipers that came down the fairway that happens right before the trophy presentation. They were cheering for a guy like me on the green. They didn't know what it was happening, but they were all about it. And, I think that's what's been fun, is to weave the two together. And, you look at it, the early part of the week, you've got Youth Day, which we had Caitlin Clark here in 2023. We had Keegan Murray and AJ Dillon here last year. We're still trying to figure out, where we're going to go with some celebrity or sports personalities here this summer. But trying to grow the game. And, we do a great job of all the charity work and the economic impact and promoting volunteerism, but really trying to grow and nurture the game and have that next wave of folks. We want families to come out here and, again, to make it affordable for them to do so and create memories that they look back and say, man, remember we used to go to the John Deere Classic oh, yeah, I remember that. Jordan Spieth makes the bunker shot in 2013. Jordan Spieth comes back in 2015. Stricker makes the putt in 2011. There's just so many memories that happen out here. And it's fun to, I guess, look at it from a 30,000 foot view, and you follow people around and you see the smiles and the people that are having a great time. And, that can be done whether you're here as a family, you're here as a group of guys or gals, or you're out here just with your buddies. And, to have something for everybody, it's just something that, I think has become really the fabric of what the John Deere Classic has turned into, and something that we just can't take for granted.
It is the best week of the year, in my opinion, for sports fans. So 99 days away. Did you say tickets go on sale April 1st?
Yeah, next Tuesday. They'll be on sale.
April Fool's Day. You think that's a good
idea?
Ain't
no fool in here. Ain't no fool in here.
I love it. I love it. More importantly, people want to hear about the John Deere Classic, but they also want to hear about your beloved. You are smiling this week. I'm tired of you texting me. You got your guy. You're fired up about Iowa basketball, aren't you?
I don't know if you can see it, or maybe I've gained too much weight that you can't see my dimples, but my Lord, man, I'm over the moon. We talked about it. I'll forever be eternally grateful for, Fran McCaffery and what he did for the state of Iowa and the University of Iowa. But if you tuned in yesterday to the Ben McCollum presser, that's an A++, and he's a pro, and he checked every box. He mentioned the players that have hit the portal by name. He mentioned previous coaches that he's admired. Maybe left off Steve Alford and Todd Licklider. Kind of showed that he was one of us. He's a fan. He mentioned Chris Street by name, which is so ingrained into the culture of Iowa basketball. And that was always kind of a worry, right? What if somebody doesn't come in and embrace the Chris Street story and the history? But man, I tell you what he did at Drake this year. I mean, watching that team would have beat my Hawkeyes like a drum.
Yeah.
And they were fun to watch up and down the court. They're going to guard you. And I don't want to wish away the summer and spring and fall, because that's the three best seasons we get here in the Midwest. But November is going to be pretty fun when Iowa basketball starts back up.
Andrew, you mentioned the Chris Street stuff. I loved when he went into the Rolodex. He just showed. I think my example of it is, so Seth Rollins is with the WWE, and he's from here in the Quad Cities, obviously. And when I interviewed him the first time, like, he was a little standoffish until I talked about wrestling. I told him I know wrestling. And then he kind of warmed up to me really fast. My analogy is he wasn't just a coach that came in and pulled out Chris Street because everybody knows who Chris Street was. Once he started talking about Val Barnes and Montere Glasper and those kind of things, and didn't 12-year-old Andrew Layman just go crazy inside, or, whatever, 15-year-old, whatever you were when those players were at the University of Iowa? That, I think, endeared himself more to fans than anything else he said. Am I right?
No, you're spot on. The guy clearly is a fan of Iowa basketball. Certainly the story of his years in Iowa City as a young guy. It's awesome. I will point out, and this is not me taking a shot at Coach, I guess we can't call him Coach Mack, but Coach McCollum. He mentioned that he went to the Iowa basketball camp and he was a Hawkeye Hustler. He got the Hawkeye Hustler Award.
Yeah. Please.
I don't mean to beat him down a little bit, but I have one of those too.
Do you really?
Yeah, no, I wasn't skilled enough to score the basketball with, the talented kids that were at the Iowa basketball camp in 7th grade. But I tell you what, I could give you tremendous effort and play defense. And they didn't give those things away to just anybody. I still have it. It's in a box in my basement. But yeah, I too walked away with a Hawkeye Hustler, and I think they felt sorry for the slow, fat kid, personally.
I want you to get that, and next time you come out to the set to the studio out here in beautiful
me
Moline,
wear it?
Illinois. You have to. You 100%
Yeah, I
have
will.
to.
I'm gonna go home tonight. It's in a box with all my Jordan stuff from when I was
That's
a
so
kid,
awesome.
and I've got about 250 Ken Griffey Jr. cards that I collected and Ryan Sandberg cards. So I'll dig it out tonight, and I'm gonna send you a picture.
I love it. Hey, okay, so one more before we let you go. Maybe two more. I lie a lot. Do you see the resemblance in Coach McCollum and myself? Scott Dochterman thinks he looks like me. I got Shelby Kluver tweeting at me or Xing at me, whatever, posting at me that's me. I didn't see it.
I don't see it. Maybe a little bit in the eyes. I like your hair a little better than his, although he's really full in the back.
Look at my ears, though.
Yeah,
man.
your ears. Yeah, I could see maybe a little bit, but
mine are bigger.
He's got a little better. He's got a little better jawline than you two. But you're trending in the right direction, and you're starting to look good, Matt.
Right? I'm down 15 pounds. I'll be out there. Full disclosure: when you stop working and do nothing but eat all the time, it's not a good combination. So we're back in the right direction with that, which is a good thing as well.
Well, and we make fun of your belts, but I'm giving away some neck belts in the Pro-Am this year. They're like those Thanksgiving ratchet belts that you don't have to punch your own hole. I got you. You're my guy. I got you.
Oh, I was gonna say I need one of those badly. Speaking of golf, real quick, it'd be malpractice if I didn't ask you about the actual golf. I know I can't. I mean, I'm not gonna say which guy, this guy, that guy, but your feelings as you get under 100 days to the John Deere Classic on what this field will look like. And I'll tell you, Andrew, you put the pressure on yourself because the recent years have been some of the best in recent history when it comes to players and rankings and quality of field. You set yourself a high bar, young man. I hope you can keep up with it.
Yeah, it's fun to go out and sell what we've got going here. And you understand that it's not going to fit in everybody's schedule, and certainly with the signature events, that's going to dictate a lot of what these guys do. But you think back to Monday morning of tournament week last year. You had the return of Jordan Spieth after 9 years. You had Jason Day was in the field. I think we had 9 top 50 guys, which to my knowledge, that's the most we had ever had. Patrick Cantlay, top 10 guy in the world, ultimately didn't make it to Thursday to tee it up, but it's been a fun process. I don't think we'll get Jordan Spieth back this year. He and his wife, Annie, are due to have their third child sometime around the beginning of July. So tried to tell him, hey, man, it's the third kid. My guy, Matt Randazzo, would tell you, you just don't love the third as much as you do the first, but it's really not a selling point.
It's the fourth that gets a little much.
Oh, there you go.
There
you go. I only have 2. I'm still playing man-to-man defense.
You got to ask Jordan, still have 2. So you're saying there's a chance that another Layman comes running around. You said that as if to the time being, you only have 2.
Based on some medical stuff that has happened that I've had, that we would have a problem that there's a third child.
I always tell my wife, if you're pregnant, we're going to Maury Povich or something else because you got more important things to deal with. No, Jordan's got to have better family planning than that. Come on, he's got to be better. Did you say that to him? You got to plan better?
No, and I haven't gone back. I haven't done that 9 to 10 month window to see what that would take us back to. But it's and who knows, right? But we're putting our best foot forward, and we think we've got a compelling story to tell. Certainly the changes to the PGA Tour model next year with there's only going to be 100 card-carrying members versus 125. That's going to change the behavior of a lot of guys, and I think guys will have to play a little bit more. There's no signature event after us. The only thing after us is 2 weeks is the Open, and then we're sitting about 4 weeks before the playoffs. So FedEx Cup points become at a high premium, and guys have to play that are chasing that. And again, that's only going to get more important down the road. But you look back last year, no one knew who Luke Clanton was as an exemption coming into the John Deere Classic. He had played well the week before in Detroit, goes on to finish T2 here. Ultimately continues to get opportunities with exemptions and maintains his amateur status and plays well. And then that culminates at the Cognizant event down in Palm Beach Gardens here about a month ago, and he gets his tour card. So, he's going to finish his sophomore season at Florida State, and their hope is that they can win a national championship. But he's going to be turning pro around that end of May. It would be my estimation, and hopefully we can get him back here, because that guy, he's a player. And I mean, he had some massive galleries last year here. Yeah. He had his entire family with him, and just a quality young man. So I guess my point to that story is, every one of these guys that's here in July, all 156, they're all capable of winning. That's how good they are. Whether they're an 18 or 19-year-old kid or more of a journeyman, everybody is capable of winning. Look what Michael Kim has done. Michael Kim wins here in 2018 and then struggles. And I'm telling you, he's knocking on the door. He's going to win again, and it's right around the corner.
Well, Andrew, our good friend, mutual friend, Celia Palermo has him on the John Deere Classic Mount Rushmore. I don't have him on there yet, but if he wins again, maybe we can start talking about it. But she's a huge fan of Michael Kim.
I don't know how you couldn't. He's one of the best follows on X if you're not following him. But, I love Michael Kim. I would tell Michael Kim that, and I would tell him this to his face. He's probably not on the Mount Rushmore right now.
Yeah, yet. And I do need to go back real fast.
Although he did set the record. At 28 under par or whatever it was. And he ran away and hid on Sunday.
If he sets the record, which he already has it, and if he wins twice, Celia has a good point. Then you can start putting him in that conversation. We'll see how that goes. I do have to recycle real fast and retry. I do love my fourth kid. It's optional. I've opted into loving him, but it's not as important as, what it means. When you have one, everything is like you do everything with that kid. If he brushes his teeth, it's like, wow, you brush your teeth. By the fourth kid, you don't remember. I don't remember half the stuff he does for the first time. So anyways, you've already got me in trouble.
I think we signed up for veneers with our second. It was like, if she brushes her teeth, she brushes her teeth.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
You're going to roll around and eat dirt, do it. Have it.
Whatever. You're still playing man to man. That's a beautiful thing. So Andrew, I appreciate you. We have to get you out here soon. Maybe next week, would you come out to the house? Like maybe the day of the ticket sales?
I'd be delighted. I'd be happy to wear my, Hawkeye Hustler medal, and I'll probably, break out my you remember the old, remember the Adam Haluska playing days where by the way, high school classmate of mine, which I heard Dochterman brought that up this morning. He talked about Adam Haluska.
His name's Dochterman now. I love it.
I know, Dochterman.
Hey, so next week you're saying now viewership has been good. You mentioned it. It's been very good. But I don't know if it can get much better than you in studio wearing a shirt you wore in 7th grade. I mean, that could be a little snug, couldn't it? I'm just saying. I don't know.
Hey, man. I'm like a roller coaster. Just ride that wave, baby.
I love it. So, all right, Andrew, we'll see you next week. I appreciate you doing this. And congratulations once again for people just tuning in. Dierks Bentley Saturday. Zach Brown Band on Sunday. That's a really good weekend of music to go along with the best golfers in the world. Andrew, we'll talk to you soon. I appreciate you.
Cubs are going to win the NL Central. That's my last prediction.
You know that the opening day's tomorrow.
Yeah.
We're
already sitting on 2.
I know it snuck up on me. So, all right. I do like the Ernie Banks behind you. That is impressive. You're such a big timer. All right. See you, Andrew. Appreciate you. All right, that is Andrew Layman with the John Deere Classic. He's making me do a full show. I wasn't expecting to go all the way to noon today, but it's good when you got a lot to talk about. That is a good thing. So I do want to bring up one quick thing for everyone who is in the off the air bracket challenge. I got to bring up my fancy graphic. Wait for it. Look at that. The bracket challenge. As of right now, and I'm going to mess up his name. I wonder if I still have it up on my no, of course not. That would be too easy. Anyways, if you're in the bracket challenge, we thank you for doing it. We want to thank Godfathers, Snoops, and Hungry Hobo, 3 of our fantastic sponsors for helping us out with that. And if you are in the bracket challenge, best of luck. The Sweet 16 starts tomorrow. So it's tight near the top. And then Mama Randazzo, my mom is right there. If Houston wins this thing, I think hopefully we can have my mom on the show. That's what I want. I don't know if she wants that or not, but if she wins, Mom, if you're watching, which you should be, you're coming on the show and sitting right here and talking about how you're the smartest Randazzo and all that good stuff. So anyways, thanks for everyone for watching. We want to thank Scott Dochterman for a great insight on the Ben McCollum era. I mentioned it was a home run. He mentioned it was a grand slam yesterday, and I would agree. He did a fantastic job. So if you missed Scott, go back and check him out. Trey Taylor from Moline also joining us today. Fantastic interview, fantastic young man. T-Roy had the latest of his mock draft. We thank T-Roy as well. And then Andrew Layman with the news that Dierks Bentley is next up, or will be there on Saturday at the John Deere Classic. So great music out of the JDC, great golf as well. We've made it through Wednesday here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. We'll have a lot more to get to tomorrow. Have a great Wednesday, Quad Cities. We'll see you back here on Thursday for another edition of Off the Air.